Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are
is
attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization
Can you give us a
is
chance
terrible.
to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir.
Today we look at the news and its woke reporters being set straight. Welcome to another video. Don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and of course subscribe. Alright, let's get into it.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election
to try to keep...
I
want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign...
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
That's true.
But
they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. These were people, this was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question. Mr. President, if I may...
We all know President-elect Trump just can't stand CNN, right? That's our opening number. What else do you call people coming in en masse over your fence to get into your home? An invasion, no?
It's really great to see everybody on this beautiful, beautiful day in Washington, D.C. Okay, question? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. She's shocked that I picked her.
No.
She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Still a fan favorite, I just know it. January 2025, it's fake news versus Donald J. Trump.
Hope it was an incorrect report.
When was the last time you heard from him?
I don't want to say. Yeah.
You pointed to me. Just a quick question about that. So you haven't made any contact, though, just to make sure?
With who?
The North Koreans.
I don't want to say. I won't say that.
Okay.
We have a good relationship with North Korea. As good as you can have. I mean, we have a good relationship with North Korea. I have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I hope he's okay. And somebody would say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's not terrible. I hope he's okay. And I think it was a fake report done by CNN.
Can I ask you a question?
What do you have? Go ahead. No, that's enough. Go ahead.
Can I ask? But that wasn't my question.
The problem is you don't write the truth. So, as far as I'm concerned, I want to go to the next
Can
one.
I ask you a question about...
No, not CNN, please. Go ahead.
The White House has not responded to these
I told you. CNN is fake news. Don't talk to me. Go ahead, please.
But he says he was retaliated against, and that's why he was removed from his job. Do you have a response to that?
Okay, next question.
CNN can't seem to ever catch a break, can they? For people who claim to want peace, they seem to want to egg on international fights.
We want to have confidence in the current leadership of the Pentagon and the way the defense situation has been operating for the last several years. I mean, from the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of the so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth a chance.
Because he's got two insiders?
All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick. And I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way, I think he ought
that
to
list
be
you
just gave is really interesting because you highlighted a bunch of things that the civilian leadership of the country decided on. In the military, their job was just to execute. They execute.
How did it go?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
How did it go?
In terms of the decision making, you're assigning decision making responsibility to the military over things that civilians are responsible for.
So you make a good point. The civilian leadership made decisions, and then the people they put in charge of the Pentagon carried it out. And it was all pretty much a disaster. So now we have a new president who I think got elected in part because of some of those disasters. And he's going to put in some of the non-insiders in charge of not just this agency, but a bunch of them. Now, look, they've got to perform. They've got to perform. I mean, we've got 53 U.S. senators that are Republicans. And Pete Hegseth, he's an American hero. The man won 2 Bronze Stars for his service service, and he's been a champion for veterans. He's going to have to go up there just like everybody else and prove his knowledge of how to do this job. He's not immune from that, but we ought to give this man a chance, in my opinion.
Wokies have been trying to find something to be made about lately, so they chose the president-elect's nomination. Are you upset that he used to be a host on Fox? The man's gotta work, no?
We don't agree on this.
Yes, you want censorship and I don't.
No, I don't want censorship at all.
Yes, you do.
No, I want responsibility. I think
You desperately want censorship.
No, if I want a censorship...
You want censorship so bad you can taste it.
No, that's not true. It's not true. I think that there's right and wrong. And I think that...
You want censorship.
And I think that when you have a platform that's as big as yours and as powerful as yours and as influential as yours, and you are a person of consequence to the world with what you do, that there is a certain responsibility that goes along with what you have on your platform and what you put out to the world. And I think that's important. You don't see that responsibility.
I think we have a responsibility to adhere to the law, and if people want the law changed, they should talk to their elected representative and get the law changed, and then we will adhere to the law.
Okay.
But if you want us to go beyond the law, that is us deciding to be censors. And I'm against censorship. I'm in favor of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And freedom of speech only is relevant when people you don't like say things you don't like. Otherwise, it has no meaning.
I think I get why Don Lemon dyed X. Trump supporters have been rubbing the victory in his face. When X was Twitter, so many shadow bans would have happened.
We look at the 5 cases, 6 months from now, a year from now. Let's assume all 5 of them go to trial. He's guilty of 3 so far.
Wait, what do you mean he's guilty of 3 so far?
Well, he's been convicted of 3, sorry.
What do you mean? No, he hasn't.
I love this. E. Jean Carroll was guilty.
That was not a conviction. That was a civil case.
Okay, well, yes, that's what I'm talking about. So that
okay, but there's a big difference.
It's still he was convicted. He was guilty of that. He got settlement. In the Trump organization, they're guilty there.
Again, we're still civil, libel.
Yes, of course. But these are the cases we're talking about. And in the third one... she's the lawyer, right? Yeah, of course. And in the third one... I'm just talking about the 5 cases. Yes, some are civil, obviously, and some are not. Some are criminal. But if we look at all 5 cases...
You said 3 convictions. Now you're walking it back.
I'm not walking it back. There's 3 in which he was...
You should walk it back.
Okay, I'm so glad Megan is here.
Of the 5, 3 of them, he's either guilty or...
He got a bad result.
Yeah, got a bad result. There are 2 more. If he is found guilty of those 2 more, Megan, and 5 of 5, he had a bad result, way to frame it, will you chalk all 5 up in your mind to 5 different jurisdictions, 5 different prosecutors, 5 different juries and or judges, all conspiring to get him?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. That's all I wanted to hear your answer to. 5 of 5 different jurisdictions. Yeah. You think it's all lawfare?
E. Jean Carroll, they changed the law so that she could bring a civil lawsuit against him, and she did. New York went 87% for Joe Biden. That fix was in right from the start. The fraud trial that Letitia James brought against him has never been brought. There's no victims. The banks who were involved said, we didn't lose a penny. What are we doing here? We weren't damaged. Nobody was complaining except Tish James, who ran for office saying, I will get him. Then you have Alvin Bragg, who's a George Soros-funded prosecutor who doesn't like to prosecute any crime in New York City, where I lived for 17 years, except if your name is Donald Trump. Let's go down to Georgia, where Fani Willis and Nathan Wade couldn't keep their libidos in check long enough to actually bring this case against Donald Trump. It's a repeat of what was happening in January 6th up in the case with Judge Chutkan, who loathes Trump and has sentenced almost every J6 defendant to way more jail time than their counterparts would get. Those are falling apart because of presidential immunity, which was handed down by the Supreme Court, who said you cannot bring a criminal case against a sitting president for any official act. Those cases have been gutted. Also a Supreme Court ruling saying the same on January 6 defendants in general. And that leaves us with Florida and the documents. And Trump has torn that apart because Jack Smith wasn't properly appointed and isn't the right counsel. But there are other issues. They haven't even gotten to presidential immunity there. And so that one's going nowhere as well. And by the way, they're going to appeal it up to the 11th Circuit. It out. The 11th Circuit is conservative, and thank God so is the current Supreme Court. They're not going to tolerate that nonsense.
Let me ask you about...
Megan is just brilliant. How do you want to ask questions about legalities and conspiracies if you don't even know the difference between liabilities and convictions? So you're saying you didn't even watch a single season of Suits?
Is it safe to say that based off of your comments, you're suggesting that these women at these abortion rallies are ugly and overweight?
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
What were you expecting him to say? Go on a middle-class family rant like someone we used to know.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
certainly you
Give me an example.
tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that. Right wing, I mean, it's that type
I
of
almost never
ideological
talk about.
thing.
I never really talk about left
But
or right.
anyways, a lot
I
of
don't
people
really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
you must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not
just
sure.
wondering.
I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense.
Okay.
Common sense for a change. We're going to make common sense common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government. The guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades. I'm going to cap spending, cut waste, so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates. You'll want to be able to pay your mortgage again? You want to be able to afford rent? Then you have to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm the only one with a common sense plan that will bring back the buying power of your paycheck.
Give the man a page. If you were going to give such a dumb interview, you should have at least read the Trump book you keep mentioning. Did Joy Behar teach you how to ask questions?
On the right have acknowledged that he inherited from the previous administration.
Well, that's fake news.
Well, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
If you look at the unemployment among African Americans during his years and during the Obama years, clearly it was much better. If you look at opportunity zone districts, if you look at support and financial support to historical colleges, clearly it's better off under his administration than the previous administration. So, I don't want to get caught into politics.
Well,
just because I'm a Democrat, my party feels though that
I like to traffic in facts, and much of what you just said is patently false. But I do want to. Representative Jones, this is my show. I'll ask questions. Give me a second.
Well, you had me on your show.
I know, but
don't cut me off when I'm giving an answer.
I'm not cutting you off, but I do want. Are you a paid campaign surrogate? Are you being compensated?
Let me be clear. You get paid to shape a liberal narrative. You get paid to attack this president. I don't get a dime for this president. I don't get a dime from the campaign. Everything I've done has been me and based on my principles. And see, that's the problem. When an African American that's elected official,
I did not raise your
Let me finish now. Let me finish.
Whoa. You're not going to imply that I asked that question because you're black.
So don't ask me that. You only ask me that because I don't fit your narrative. This president never offered anything. I don't want anything from this president. It's what I can do for my country. And you need to accept that many other African Americans and others support this president because of his policies. And to insult me to say, am I getting paid?
I've asked the same question. I have asked the same question
and that's
of Democrats who come on.
MSNBC and their narrative to keep blacks silent who happen to support this president. Why can't I be like white liberals or other whites? Nobody questioned they're getting paid. So I have to get paid. Do you ask Democrats? Do they get paid?
I just said if you
paid by Joe Biden.
I just said to you.
Have you ever asked any host on your show that they've been paid by Joe Biden?
State Representative Vernon Jones.
That's actually quite the dumb claim. Shout out to Obama. So Trump inherited your economy, employment, tax policies, and everything else. Inherited is an insane term. Many will say his term was a better time. But let's hold that. What did Biden do with the Trump inheritance? Or does inheritance not apply to your incompetent mentees?
You obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
I'm
free speech. Control what people say. Gonna tell people what to believe. Gonna tell people... I don't... tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want and they can believe whatever they want.
I think he's confusing the UFC with WWE. Honestly, the language is very fitting. What else do you call controlling how far an adult can go? It's a leash. And that's why free speech has the word free, no leashes.
You're a Yale-educated attorney, and I want to get your take on what we saw happen last week, those immunity arguments before the Supreme Court, where Trump's team, his attorney, argued that a president could order the military to stage a coup and to have their political opponent assassinated and be immune from prosecution unless this theory that they were impeached and then convicted by the Senate. Do you share the view that presidents are basically above the law?
Look, Caitlin, I think we have to be careful about imputing words into the president's attorneys that they didn't actually say. What the president's attorney said is that, what the president's attorney said, Caitlin, to be clear, is that there is a checks and balances system in our Constitution. Now, some things the president does, private acts, are liable to criminal penalties, but most of the things that the president does in their official duties, we have a system of impeachment, we have a system of checks and balances, the legislative branch that I'm a member of, the judicial branch. I did not read the president's attorneys as saying that the president could order a coup. The president's attorneys are saying that the constitutional checks and balances system would address that problem, and I think that's an important distinction.
But let me stop you right there, because I listened to this. It's John Sauer, Trump's attorney, and when he was asked by one of the justices if the president could order the military to stage a coup and would it count as an official act, meaning he couldn't be prosecuted for it, he said it would depend on the circumstances. I mean, what circumstances warrant a president ordering the military to stage a coup?
Well, first of all, he did say it depends on the circumstances, so that it opens up a whole lot of avenue for context there. But more importantly, Caitlin, he's just saying that would count as an official act.
But that's an official act in your view too?
But could I finish the answer to the question, Caitlin? An official act, there are a number of checks and balances in our system. There's the impeachment process. There's the budgeting authority that Congress has. There are a number of ways where Congress has a check and balance control over the President of the United States. All he's saying is that the criminal liability procedures that exist in this country don't cover the president's official acts. And by the way, how could anybody disagree with that, Caitlin? Should Barack Obama be prosecuted for killing an American citizen via a drone strike? There are a number of examples in American history where if you apply the standard, the lawfare standard of the Biden administration against Donald Trump, it would make the presidency impossible to actually execute the law.
Yeah,
so
I know
in the
that's
name
the argument
of taking down, in the name of taking down their political opponent, Caitlin, these guys are really pushing a legal theory that I think would destroy the presidency, whether a Democrat or Republican was in charge.
That's Caitlin Collins, one of the ones who can't get it out. Not only can't she get reasonable questions out, she also can't be quiet while a person answers.
Protesters. I have no political agenda, sir. I really don't.
What about all the
Nobody that I know does either. We're purely objective journalists.
Yeah, you are. What about...
Truly, sir, from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, I know.
I have a political dog in any...
Okay, what about all the compilation videos where they show thousands of newscasts in every city all reporting and saying the exact same thing?
Nobody tells me what to say, sir.
But there's compilation videos on YouTube and Twitter. They got millions and millions of views where every reporter in every city, at every station, they say the exact same thing, word for word. How do you explain that?
I don't know what you're referring to, so I can't really...
Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I know. Okay. All right.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you so much for your time. It was
Thank
nice to
you.
chat with you.
It was great talking to you.
Have a good one.
Put your mask on. Watch out, the virus is going to get you. Oh, why do you got to wear... You didn't have your mask on the whole time, and now you're putting your mask on. Here's the guy. He's been standing here the whole time without his mask. Here's his camera dude with no mask on. But here he is. Now he's still trying to scare everyone. Now he's going to put his mask on while he reports. Keep spreading that fear, buddy. Keep spreading that fear. Why didn't you have your mask on before? Now he's not talking to me. Why didn't you have your mask on the last 10 minutes? Huh?
They're asking us to wear it per guidelines for television.
So you're told what to do. Exactly. You just told me you weren't told what to do. You just told me you could do whatever you want.
I said I wasn't told what to say.
This isn't even a government official. This is a citizen, a smart one. Of course you guys are told what to do. Weeks before the elections, every woke network started describing JD Vance as slick. Every single one of them. He's so slick. It was so ridiculous to watch. You are fed lines, and that's okay. Get your money.
Charlottesville is an egregious symptom of what is wrong with parts of all over America. I'm not jumping to conclusions, sir. I'm being factual, and you are dismissing it. And, you know, perhaps if you would actually speak to the heart of these things, we could get to the bottom
hold on a
of
second,
some
Simone. Let's get a point of clarification. Ken, what are you disagreeing with exactly? Simone's argument is basically that you know what white supremacists are about. You know what Robert E. Lee evokes. That's what they used for the basis for coming together. What is your point of disagreement exactly?
Right. Well, my point of disagreement is that was an excuse to bring these groups together. The local blogger who got the permit to protest the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue then blew this up. That was an excuse. Look at how they got the permit. And can I finish, Simone? Will you just shut up for a minute and let me finish?
Pardon me, sir. You don't get to tell me to shut up on national television.
He got frustrated. She's yelling about decorum, but she couldn't let him have 5 seconds of uninterrupted speech.
Before we started reading about it, it could have been stopped in its tracks. Unfortunately, they didn't decide to make it public, but the whole world is suffering because of it.
You did say a few days ago, though, you did have a sense that this was a pandemic that was coming. So why was the United States not prepared with more testing?
We were very prepared. The only thing we weren't prepared for was the media. The media has not treated it fairly. I'll tell you how prepared I was. I called for a ban from people coming in from China long before anybody thought it was. In fact, it was your network. I believe they called me a racist because I did that. It was many of the people in the room. They called me racist and other words because I did that, because I went so early. So when you say we weren't prepared, had I let these tens of thousands of people come in from China a day, we would have had something right now that would have been, you wouldn't have even recognized it compared to where we are. How many people have passed away? How many people have died as of this moment? You could multiply that by a factor of many, many, many. So when you say that I wasn't prepared, I was the first one to do the ban. Now other countries are following what I did. But the media doesn't acknowledge that. They know it's true. They know it's true, but they don't want to write about it. Yeah.
Because woke reporters would rather support the woke agenda, they did call it travel ban racism. Before the mask obsession, they said the lockdown was his fascism showing. CNN needs to pick a side before people start tuning to podcasts instead.
Been in government?
Did serve in the previous administration.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, I see. You didn't tell me that, John. You didn't tell me that. Did serve in the previous administration. You mean the Obama administration. Thank you for telling me that. See, there's a typical fake news deal.
You asked me when she was appointed. I told you when she was appointed.
You're a third-rate reporter, and what you just said is a disgrace, okay? You asked me, you said, sir, just got appointed. Take a look at what you said now. I said, when did this person, how long in government? Well, it was appointed in the Obama administration. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much. You will never make it. Go ahead, please.
Does anyone know of this John? Well, guess he was right. John's not making out of the trenches.
Quentin, you have put Margot Robbie, a very talented actor, in your film. She was in with Leonardo in Wolf of Wall Street. I, Tonya. This is a person with a great deal of acting talent, and yet you haven't really given her many lines in the movie. And I wondered, I guess that was a deliberate choice on your part, and I just wanted to know why that was, that we don't hear her actually speaking very much. And Margot, I wanted you to also comment about being in the film in this part.
Well, I just reject your hypotheses.
So, this is about the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's almost as if a writer can create his piece however he pleases. Also, the feminist reporter didn't even choose the best recommendation movie. The one with Leonardo DiCaprio is Wolf on Wall Street, and she didn't speak too much either. Guess why? Because her character didn't. If a man was given less lines compared to a woman, they would have found an artistic interpretation.
Do you support age restrictions for puberty blockers and hormone therapies for trans kids?
I think that Justin Trudeau is trying to divide and distract Canadians by spreading disinformation about the decisions that premiers and parents are making.
I want to know you.
What do you think? What do you think?
I want to know your position.
What do you
think? Party policy. It's your own party policy. A party
I think we
convention.
should protect the rights of parents to make their own decisions.
What does it mean?
With regards to their children. And I believe that adults should have the freedom to make any decision they want about their bodies.
But minors.
How about
I think they're-
bans,
I think-
surgeries, and medical interventions for minors, as your own party members suggested?
Medical
sir?
interventions like what?
That is the language that your party
What medical
used.
interventions?
Well, you would have to ask your party members.
What medical
Such as puberty blockers and hormone.
For minors?
Yes.
Irreversible? You're talking about
I
irreversible?
would like to understand your
I just want to be clear. No, I want to be clear. I just want to be clear.
For minors.
Puberty blockers for minors?
Do you agree with that?
Do you agree with that?
I think that we should protect children
What
and their
does that
ability
mean?
to make adult decisions when they're adults.
So you
And that
think
will protect-
only adults?
I think-
Only adults should make. You said yes. Just to be clear, you said yes. Only adults should take puberty blockers.
I think we should protect children, let them make adult decisions when they become adults.
So that
you do support age
so that means
restrictions?
you are against puberty blockers for kids under the age of 18. Is that
Yes.
unclear? Okay. What about? Can I ask you about in Alberta?
By the way, I just want to make another comment on this. Justin Trudeau is again puffing out his chest, trying to divide Canadians and attack parents who are trying to protect their kids. He will, in the end, back down on this, just like he had to back down on his firearms policy, just like he had to back down on bringing in medical assistance and dying for people suffering from mental illness, just like he's backing down again and again and again. He will back down on this because he is not interested in protecting kids. He's interested in using this as a divisive wedge to distract from doubling housing costs and quadrupling carbon taxes on our people.
But for you're against puberty blockers for kids under the age of 18. What about opting
Yes,
in?
I am.
What about parents in Alberta having to opt in? Where do you stand
Every
on that?
No,
lesson,
that's a decision for the province.
How many different ways do these activists desire the answer? The man said, no, let adults decide on such a change. Move on.
You and Mike Tomlin are two of the few black head coaches in the league. I wonder what your relationship is like with them and your thoughts on Steve Wilkes joining that fold.
I have a very good relationship with Tomlin. We don't look at what color we are when we coach against each other. We just know each other. I have a lot of very good white friends that coach in this league as well, and I don't think it's a big deal. As far as us coaching against each other, I think it's normal. Wilkes got an opportunity to do a good job. Hopefully he does it. And we coach ball. We don't look at color.
But you also understand that representation matters too, right? And that when young aspiring coaches or even football players, they see someone that looks like them, maybe grew up like them, that has to mean something.
Well, when you say you see you guys and look like them and grow up like them, means that we're oddballs to begin with. And I think the minute you guys stop making a big deal about it, everybody else will as well.
Like Morgan Freeman said, if you're trying to end racism, stop talking about it. This whole representation nonsense is just a subtle way to amplify racial divide.
Just curious, I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for example. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why, because I don't actually use that for you.
But you said
a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second.
following.
You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and
then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
That's a BBC reporter who was wailing about the hateful content he had seen on X since Elon took over. Okay, cool. Name one. That was when his brain stopped printing ridiculous claims.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, Now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. You know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke. And I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe
I have
that
answered
black
the
voters should
question.
trust in other
I have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Why does the race of the reporters matter? You're black and he's white. Should people assume that the reason you asked such a horrible question is because of race? He's always going against reporters from CNN. Most of them are white. Why don't you bring that up?
What is that change going to look like, Don? What practically, your father as president, I think you would even say, was a divisive figure. What's it going to look like in the second term?
I don't think he was a divisive figure at all. I think the media created divisiveness around him. They lied about Russia collusion. They said he was a traitor. They went after him in every which way as possible. If the media actually starts being an honest broker, talking about the things that he did, the prosperity he brought, the peace deals that he signed around the world, rather than the disaster that we're living right now, I think you'd do everyone in the country a big favor.
I know immigration's important to him. I covered the family separation crisis closely. Will we continue to see policies like separating 5,000 children deliberately from their parents?
You mean the Obama administration?
You know they didn't do that, sir. Will there be a second family separation policy?
It's MSDNC, so I expect nothing less from you clowns. Even today, even 48 hours later, you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait with your lies and with your nonsense. So just get out of here.
These questions were brought up less than 2 days after the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. Joy, leave, and 6 colored rainbows, I guess. Would you like to hear an intelligent rant? Well, not a rant, an intelligent monologue.
John, I've not known you long, but I love you already. But I have to say that it's disingenuous to claim that the biases that are exhibited on Fox biases exhibited on MSNBC. It's difficult to suggest that these corporations operate as anything other than mouthpieces for their owners in BlackRock and Vanguard. And unless we start to embrace, and also, mate, like spiritually, if I may use that word in your great country, we have to take responsibility for our own perspective. Been on that MSNBC, mate. It was propagandist nutcrackery on there. I went on a show called Morning Joe. Yeah. It was absurd the way they carried on.
Good Morning Joe.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It wasn't morning. There was no one called Joe there. No one could concentrate. They didn't understand the basic tenets of journalism. No one was willing to stick up for genuine American heroes like Snowden. No one was willing to talk about Julian Assange and what he suffered trying to bring real journalism to the American people. And I think to sit within castle of MSNBC throwing rocks at Fox News is ludicrous. MSNBC better. Make MSNBC great again.
My friend, I would love...
Russell Brand, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. President. Go ahead.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Today, 600,000, 25,000 deaths. I know you want to blame the WHO, but I've spoken to hundreds of people across the country in the last few weeks who say they still can't get tested and that they aren't social distancing because
so
they...
the governors, Excuse me. I know your question. You ready? The governors are supposed to do testing. It's up to the governors. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President,
go ahead, please.
Quiet.
Quiet.
If we could just get back to May 1.
that they are not,
Mr. President,
that they are
how many-
following your lead, that they are not social
The
distancing.
governors are doing the testing. It's now not up, and it hasn't been up to the federal government. Go ahead.
President, I'm going to have a quick follow on the WHO, but
I told them when they put this guy here, it's nothing but trouble. He's a showboat. If you keep talking, I'll leave, and you can have it out with the rest of these people. If you keep talking, I'm going to leave, and you can have it out with them.
They were so obsessed with making COVID accusations. They wanted his presidency to fail so bad. That's why wokies can never say they love their country. I've barely ever heard any of them say it. They love their agenda more.
Do you think that your tweets and your name calling are turning people off?
No, I think I wouldn't be here if I didn't have social media.
Well,
But the media is fake. And frankly, if I didn't have social media, I'd have no way of getting out my voice.
Do you know what you told me a long time ago when I asked why you keep saying fake media?
Yeah.
You said to me, I say that because I need to discredit you so that when you say negative things about me, no one will believe you.
I don't have to discredit you.
But that's what you told me.
You've discredited yourself.
You know, I didn't want to have this kind of angry.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Well, then you brought up a lot of subjects that
Well, I said
were
I'm going to ask you
inappropriately brought
tough
up.
questions.
They were inappropriately
But-
brought up right from the beginning. No, your first question was, this is going to be tough questions.
Why?
You don't ask Joe Biden. I saw your interview with Joe, the interview with Joe Biden.
I never did a Joe
It was
Biden
a joke.
interview.
The interview, 60 Minutes. I see Joe Biden giving softball after softball. I've seen all of his interviews. He's never been asked a question that's hard.
Okay, but forget him for a minute.
No, but you
You're
start
president,
with me.
You're president. And
Excuse me, Leslie, you started with me. Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions?
Are you?
That's no way to talk. There's no way to talk.
And that was the shortest 60-minute interview ever. Honestly, if the same viciousness applied to Trump was applied to Biden, he would have dropped out 2 years into his term.
Was Nicole the love of your life?
What do you mean, Peter?
You were married for 10 years.
Listen, we raised children. I mean, how do you answer that? How do you answer that question? She's someone that I plan on getting married again.
You do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And having kids?
Absolutely.
But Nicole was a major part of your life and a love of your life at the time.
I loved Nick very much. There's no question.
Would you like Nicole to remarry?
Yes. I want Nicole to be happy. That's what I want.
And do you have a relationship where you talk, it's a parenting relationship, and talk professionally about each other's work?
Listen, here's the thing, Peter.
Yeah.
You're stepping over a line now. You're stepping over a line. You know you are.
Well, I suppose they're questions
Peter,
that people want to know.
Peter, you want to know. Take responsibility for what you want to know. Don't say what other people. This is a conversation that I'm having with you right now.
You're right.
Okay, so I'm just telling you right now, okay? Just put your manners back in.
Peter sounds like a teenage girl trying to get information on a divorcee so she can strengthen her fantasy relationship with Tom Cruise.
Hi, Tucker. Thank you so much for your address today. So you talked a little bit about immigration, and in the past you've talked white Australians, Americans, Europeans are being replaced by non-white immigrants in what is often referred to as the Great Replacement Theory. This is the same...
Have I said that whites are being replaced?
Well...
I don't think I said that.
Well, it's been mentioned on your show 4,000 times. And
really, when did I say that?
On your show.
I said whites are being replaced?
You have said that before.
Really?
Yeah.
I would challenge you to cite that because I'm pretty sure I haven't said that. I said native-born Americans are being replaced, including black.
Native-born Americans.
Native-born Americans.
And
Americans black Americans have been, African Americans have been in the United States for, in many cases, their families over 400 years. And their concerns are every bit as real and valid and alive to me as the concerns of white people whose families have been there 400 years. So I've never said that whites are being replaced. Not one time. And you can't cite it.
Untrue.
So we just met, but when our relationship starts with a lie, it makes it tough to be.
She should actually be questioned as to why she thinks black and every other race of Americans do not somehow qualify as native born. There should be some sort of fine when these reporters spread such lies.
There's a lot to unpack of what kind of went wrong for Democrats here. I think a factor is the working class feeling left behind, not reaching out to rural Americans. But what do you identify as Democrats got wrong? And it seems like you agree Biden maybe should have stepped aside sooner.
He definitely should have stepped aside. I said it a year ago. I was on camera, everybody was getting on me. I said it a year ago. He needs to step.
You took some heat.
You remember, though, that he said, does everybody remember he said he was just going to do it for 4 years?
That's right. Yeah. That's what I brought up.
Right. And did you think that once you know who stepped in, he said, well, there's nobody, we don't have anybody?
Well, the point is that it's not about who you're going up against when you know you're not what you used to be. And see, this is where covering sports puts me at a distinct advantage. I cover people every day where it's time to go, but you're holding on and you don't want to leave. People who cover the world of sports are accustomed to seeing that all the time. And so now here you are, to answer your question directly, you are the left, you leaned, and you were a prisoner to the extreme left in a lot of people's eyes. Well, guess what? Most of America doesn't operate on the fringes. Whether you're left or you're right, you're relatively centrist. You believe in compromise, negotiation, working with one another. Nobody gets to get everything they want. The problem is those on the fringes continuously push for you to get everything you want. They're not about getting things done. They're about getting their way. And if they're not going to get their way, they're about complaining and griping about it, because they understand that when you are operating based off of grievance, that's usually what provokes you to get to the polls. And that is why they don't mind feeling aggrieved and displaying and disseminating that kind of message, because they know people are going to gravitate to that. And as a result, that might get them to the polls, you thinking you're going to get what you want as a result of it. And in this particular case, the Republicans were right.
So you think the Republicans are sort of an extreme fringe party?
No, I don't that they're an extreme fringe party. I think that they're operating against those they believe are extreme on the left. Like, for example, when you talk about the LGBTQ community, I'm a fiscal conservative and I'm a social liberal. I'm fiscal with my dollars. I ain't apologizing for not wanting to pay high tax to anybody. I'm not apologizing for that, right? But outside of that, I'm pretty liberal. Live and let live, okay? But you had folks on the left that were introducing some things when we got in the whole transgender issue, and they were talking about bathrooms, or they were talking about males transitioning to females and competing against girls in sports and stuff like that. These are
less than 1% of the population.
I understand that,
but you know what? Add Aaron during the NFL.
But see, but I think that's where the mistake is made. You're saying it's ridiculous. I don't disagree with you. But most of the voters out there don't think like that. But
that means they don't have the information.
Okay, but 90% of the voters don't have the information. If you're out there busting your tail to make ends meet and to pay your bills, and you're going to work every day, and you got a family to take care of, and you're in New York City, you're getting stuck 2 hours of your day, you're stuck in traffic. You understand? You got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. You don't have time to know what you and I know.
Maybe you need to listen to the news when you're in traffic.
Well, again, I agree with
not
that.
be uninformed.
Or you listen to stuff that's going to take you away from the things that brings down your spirit. And that's unfortunately what most voters are doing.
Sunny is so far on the left, she can't be seen anymore. Not agreeing with you doesn't make people dumb. This is why you guys lost and might probably keep losing.
Governor, what has gone wrong with the rollout of the vaccine that we've seen phone lines jammed, web crashing?
There's a lot of demand. I mean, I think at the end of the day, excuse me.
If I could finish my question.
You just said what has gone wrong, so I'm answering the question. So are you going to give a speech or are you going to ask a question?
With all due respect, Governor,
you asked the question. I'm going to answer it.
I'm trying to finish my question.
No, you're giving a speech. You asked the question. You're going to ask how many questions? You get 3? They only got 1 question. Why do you get 3?
With all due respect, Governor, I'm just asking if I could finish my question.
You didn't. You finished the question.
My full question is, what went wrong with the rollout of the vaccine when we've seen phone lines jammed, websites? To complete it for you, Governor, we've seen websites crash and also senior citizens waiting overnight for the vaccine. We've seen it in Duval, Broward, Orange, and Lee counties.
And why was, like in Lee, why did that happen? Did you investigate why?
That's my question to you, Governor. You're the governor of the state. I'm not.
Okay, but you didn't investigate why that, like in Lee County, why was there a big line? Did you investigate why?
Could you tell us why?
Because we distributed vaccine to hospitals. The hospital said, first come, first serve. If you show up, we'll do it. So they didn't use a registration system. There wasn't anything that was done. And there's a lot of people are going to want to go ahead and get it.
So are you saying there was no plan then from the state to make sure that senior citizens didn't wait outside overnight?
So the state is not dictating to hospitals how, we're not to Carlos Magoya, how he runs his operations here. That would be a total disaster. These guys are much more to be able to deliver healthcare services than a state government could ever be.
This reporter went back to her network with a lie. She said, "He never even answered my question. I do not understand who gives these activists microphones and a news network contract." This is a creator who always goes hard on The View. He edits himself so flawlessly into the space and gets them to shut up in 10 seconds.
Like, he used him as his puppet, and it exposed what many of us have been saying about Tucker Carlson. He's a Kremlin puppet who doesn't know what he's talking about.
It's just such a disgrace, I think, to our country that an American would give him any kind of platform to propagandize.
Wait, if I may, I'm amazed at the level of self-projection going on here. I mean, Alicia, you work for ABC, Tucker works for himself. Objectively, you are a puppet and he's not. And Sonny, you're basically saying that Tucker shouldn't be allowed to have a voice. That's the opposite of the democracy that you preach every time we are here. And finally, none of you had any examples on what Tucker has said that was a lie or propaganda. But I'm too nice, so I will give you another chance. Give me some specific examples to back your claims. Let's go.
Yes, crickets. Calling Tucker Carlson a puppet is just projection.
Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep.
So
and they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some less.
That's what that was.
Misogyny and sexism.
Sure, all that. And the price of butter. Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They call them Hitler. They call these things. America rejected them, and instead of coming back and saying we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sonny.
Keep it going, Sonny. We would love to see you whine for 4 years and then hit refresh, then whine again in 2028.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs. Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting, because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said, rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs.
Just a handful of crimes are being committed by people who broke in. The grape cases aren't that many. The murders are nothing compared to serial killers. Again, it's all agenda, until the US becomes an English-speaking El Salvador.
Do you find it hard for celebrities to talk to media about their sexuality?
What on earth are you on about?
I was referring to an interview given to Attitude magazine a few years ago.
But what is your question?
I was wondering if you find it difficult for celebrities to talk about their sexuality.
I don't find it difficult for celebrities to talk about their sexuality. Are you asking me about my sexuality?
Sure.
Why? Thank you.
This is my theory. The more famous people belong to a social group, the deeper their claws sink into the brains of impressionable children. That's all, but it looks like no one cares about celebrities as much anyway.
Do you think you could get elected in Texas being anti-gun?
Do I think I could get elected in Texas being anti-gun? One thing about if me in politics is to give you a direct statement right there is be playing a game that I'm not interested in playing.
Okay,
to give you a direct statement right there.
Who is in charge of Matthew McConaughey's media appearance, and why would they ever put him on The View?
Mr. President, after 3.5 years, do you regret at all the lying you've done to the American people? On
all the what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who has done?
You have done. Tens of thousands.
Go ahead, please. please. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the payroll tax.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is to just not respond. What kind of question is that? What's the expected response? Or are you just trying to rage bait so you can up your views?
Let's talk about your tweets, because it comes up a lot. Even today, it came up in anticipation of this. I mean, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was a pretty big deal. There was Twitter and others engaged in active suppression of information that was relevant to the public. That's a terrible thing that happened. That's election interference.
How do you make a choice? You don't see, I mean, in terms of when you're going to engage. I mean, for example, even today, Elon, you tweeted this thing about George Soros. Well, I'm looking for it because I want to make sure I quote it properly. But I mean, you know what you wrote. But you basically.
It reminds me of Magneto's. It's like, calm down, people. This is not like made a federal case out of it.
You also, you said he wants to erode the very fabric of civilization, and Soros hates humanity. Like, when you do something like that, do you
I think that's true. That's my opinion.
Okay, but why share it? Why share it? Especially, why share it when people who buy Teslas may not agree with you, advertisers on Twitter may not agree with you? Why not just say, hey, I think this. You can tell me, we can talk about it over there, you can tell your friends, but why share it widely?
I mean, this is freedom of speech. I'm allowed to say what I want.
You absolutely are, but I'm trying to understand why you do, because you have to know it puts you in the middle of the partisan divide in the country. It makes you a lightning rod for criticism. I mean, do you like that? People today are saying he's an anti-Semite. I don't think you are.
No, I'm definitely. I'm like a pro-Semite, if anything.
I believe that probably is the case.
Yes.
But why would you even introduce the idea that would be the case?
I mean, look, we don't want to make this a George Soros interview.
No, God, no. I don't want to at all. But what I'm trying, even came up though in the annual meeting. I mean, do your tweets hurt the company? Are there Tesla owners who say, I don't agree with his political position, and I know it because he shares so much? Or are there advertisers on Twitter that Linda Yaccarino will come and say, you got to stop, man. Or, I can't get these ads because of some of the things you tweet.
I'm reminded of there's a scene in The Princess Bride. Great movie.
Great movie.
Where he confronts the person who killed his father. And he says, offer me money. Offer me power. I don't care.
So you just don't care.
What do you mean, why does he tweet his views? If he suppressed his views because of money or his reputation, won't you guys call him a sellout? If he posted more left-leaning ideas, he would be applauded for his activism. Hypocrites.